The situation between Ken, Tricia, and Marquez has turned into one of the biggest messes coming out of Huntsville right now, and it is only getting more complicated as the days go by. The divorce between Tricia and Marquez has finally been finalized after what felt like a never-ending process filled with roadblocks, fights, and delays. But just because the divorce papers are signed and the marriage is officially over, that doesn't mean the drama is coming to an end. In fact, it looks like the chaos is only beginning because the court didn't just end the marriage, they put some very strict rules in place that have left everyone talking. This situation has so many layers, and it's about to put pressure on every single person involved, especially Ken, who now finds himself being forced out of Tricia's home because of the judge's orders. Let's start with the divorce itself. After years of fighting and disagreements, the court officially listed the grounds for divorce as incompatibility of temperament. And honestly, that is probably the nicest way anyone could describe this situation. These two could not see eye to eye on anything. From finances, to parenting, to lifestyle, Tricia and Marquez were always at odds. Anyone who has watched their journey or followed their story knows that it was only a matter of time before this marriage ended. And while it took a long time, it's finally done. But as we know, when children are involved, divorce is never simple. That's where the real complications begin. The judge laid out a custody plan that gives Tricia primary custody of their daughter while allowing Marquez liberal visitation rights. On the surface, that sounds fair and balanced, but it quickly becomes clear that this custody arrangement comes with heavy restrictions. For one, Marquez is not allowed any overnight visits with his daughter until he proves he has a stable living situation. That means he must have his own residence, utilities in his own name, and he has to provide 3 consecutive clean drug screenings. That right there raised eyebrows immediately. A judge doesn't just randomly add drug testing to a custody order unless there have been serious concerns brought up in court. That means someone, likely Tricia or her lawyers, raised allegations of substance use. The court took those allegations seriously enough to make drug screenings a condition before Marquez can have his daughter overnight. Now, if Marquez is really struggling with substance use, this requirement could become a huge roadblock in his relationship with his daughter. He would need to prove he's stable, clean, and responsible before being allowed the same rights that many parents take for granted. And if he can't meet those conditions, overnight visits are simply not going to happen. On one hand, it is a protective measure that ensures the child's safety and well-being. On the other hand, it creates more tension between Marquez and Tricia because it places all the responsibility on him to meet the court standards, and if he doesn't, Tricia holds more power by default. But that wasn't the only shocking part of this court order. Another clause has turned the entire situation upside down. The judge specifically ruled that Tricia cannot have any live-in romantic partner in the house with her daughter unless she is legally married to that person. Let's stop there for a moment. That is not a typical clause that you see in custody cases. This is something very specific and unusual, and it speaks volumes about what was argued in court. Clearly, Marquez wanted restrictions placed on who could be around his child, and the court agreed. This clause directly impacts Tricia and Ken's relationship. For as long as anyone can remember, Tricia and Ken have been living together, enjoying their relationship, and building a household. But now, because of this court order, Ken cannot live in the home unless he marries Tricia. The order went into effect immediately, and by August 25 at 5 p.m., Ken was legally supposed to be out of the house if they were not married. Think about how big that is. It's no longer just about love or personal choice. This is now a legal requirement. Either Ken and Tricia get married, or Ken has to leave. This has put Tricia in a very tight spot because, for years, she has avoided marrying Ken. At first, she had the excuse of still being married to Marquez, which obviously prevented her from marrying someone else. But now that the divorce is finalized, that excuse is gone. Yet, she still hasn't rushed into marriage. That hesitation has always raised questions. Does she really want to marry Ken, or does she just enjoy the relationship as it is without the legal commitment? With the court's ruling, she no longer has the luxury of stalling. It's either marry Ken or watch him move out, and let's not forget how this impacts Ken. He has been patient with Tricia for a long time, standing by her while she figured out her life, her divorce, and her choices. But patience can only last so long, and it seems like Ken is starting to realize that he may not be Tricia's priority. He has even been talking with Will, questioning whether staying with Tricia is the right choice for him. On one side, he seems devoted to her, acting like she is the best thing that has ever happened to him. On the other side, he can't ignore the fact that she keeps dragging her feet when it comes to making their relationship official. This court order forces the issue in a way that neither of them expected. If Tricia truly wants Ken in her life as a partner and father figure, she will need to make it official. If she doesn't, she risks losing him. But what's even more complicated is how this rule will actually be enforced. Ken is a truck driver, meaning he spends a lot of time on the road. He could easily claim that he's not living in Tricia's home, just visiting between trips. How can the court police that? What even counts as living in a home? If he stays for 3 weeks, leaves for a week, then comes back, does that count as living there or just visiting? This is where things can get very messy, very quickly, because it leaves so much room for interpretation. And if Marquez believes Ken is living there in violation of the order, you can guarantee he will be back in court pushing for consequences. Meanwhile, Marquez himself has his own battles to fight. The court ordered him to pay just $300 a month in child support. To many people, that amount sounds shockingly low. $300 is barely enough for groceries for a growing child, let alone covering all the expenses that come with raising one. This low amount suggests that Marquez is struggling financially. Child support is usually based on income, and the fact that his contribution is set so low tells us that he may not have steady or significant income right now. That leaves Tricia to carry most of the financial load, unless Ken is stepping in to help her out. But perhaps the most explosive part of this ruling is the decision that their daughter cannot appear on the show at all. No name, no image, no likeness. Nothing. The child is completely banned from filming. This is huge because so much of Tricia and Marquez's storyline has revolved around their daughter, drop-offs, pickups, disagreements about parenting. All of it has been a central part of their reality TV presence. Now, that is all off the table. The judge has made it clear that children will not be used as storylines, and this isn't the first time Huntsville courts have made this kind of ruling. We saw the same thing happen with the M&M kids, where they were also banned from appearing. Judges in Huntsville clearly do not want children dragged into reality TV mess, and they are protecting them by keeping them off-screen. This changes everything for Tricia because she can no longer rely on her child-related drama with Marquez as part of her storyline. Without her daughter involved, she will need to find new ways to stay relevant on the show. This could mean that the focus shifts even more onto her relationship with Ken, which, as we already know, is under tremendous pressure right now. If she doesn't marry him, he's out of the house. If she does marry him, she has to commit in a way she has avoided for years. Either way, the drama is not going away. What makes this even more interesting is how hesitant Tricia has always been about marriage. For some reason, she never seems fully convinced about taking that next step with Ken. Maybe she enjoys having him around without the legal strings attached. Maybe she likes knowing she has control in the relationship. Or maybe she truly has doubts about whether he's the one she wants to spend the rest of her life with. Whatever the reason, she's now at a crossroads where she has no choice but to make a decision. Ken, on the other hand, is starting to feel the pressure in his own way. He has been loyal, supportive, and present, but at some point, a man has to ask himself if he's being valued. If he feels like he's just being strung along, he may eventually decide to walk away. And honestly, many people are starting to wonder how much longer Ken can keep putting up with being treated like a backup plan. If Tricia doesn't want to marry him, he has every reason to move on and find someone who does. Meanwhile, Marquez is stuck in a position where he has to prove himself. He needs to show the court that he is stable, sober, and capable of being a father. The question is, can he do it? Will he be able to meet all the requirements, or will he continue to struggle and fall short? If he can't meet those conditions, his relationship with his daughter will remain limited, and Tricia will continue to hold most of the power. All of this creates a perfect storm of tension that is bound to play out in front of the cameras. With other cast members like Martel stirring up his own drama, Melody focusing on her growth, Leticia and Marceau trying to hold their marriage together, and Maurice and Kimmy facing their own struggles, this situation between Tricia, Ken, and Marquez might end up being one of the most explosive storylines yet. The court order has completely shifted the dynamic, and every decision they make moving forward will have consequences that ripple through the show and their real lives. And now, the big questions are clear. Will Tricia finally marry Ken, or will she find another way to work around the court order? Will Ken wake up and realize that he deserves more than being strung along, or will he keep settling for less than he should? And will Marquez be able to step up, clean up, and truly be the father his daughter needs, or will these court restrictions hold him back? The answers to these questions are going to shape not just their personal lives, but the direction of the show itself. And judging by the way things are going, this story is only going to get messier from here.